Let's check on some All-22 with some of these kids trying to make starting jobs less than 3 weeks from now. We check in once again with one of our top evaluators in all the land, Greg Cosell of NFL Films, back here on the Rich Eisen Show. How you doing, Greg?
Rich, great to be with you. Thanks.
Great to have you here. All right. The kids are all right. What do you think about the kids? What do you got for me right here?
You know, it's a good reference, by the way.
Thank
I like
you, sir.
it.
Thank you.
You know, it's funny. When you do the evaluation of college quarterbacks, pretty much everybody can see the traits, the attributes. We all have a pretty good sense of what those are. And with all these young quarterbacks, there's not a lot of mystery to what they are. But when you get to the league, then what it comes down to is executing the game plan, executing the plays. And that's the way coaches think. They call plays, they put together a game plan, and they want all that executed. So while we all can love traits, when all's said and done, they want the plays executed. And it's hard to get a great feel for that when a quarterback doesn't throw a lot of balls or doesn't get a chance to work through a game. But you see glimpses, but you also see some glimpses of things that you say that's going to have to be better. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with saying that. I know a lot of people think when you say something like that, it means you don't like the quarterback. But I guarantee that that's the way they're being coached.
Okay, so no Hall of Fame yet for these guys, Greg?
Probably not, although I decided to wear a gold jacket to do the to talk to you today.
There we go.
Yeah.
All right, so what do you the Justin Fields play where he was had his helmet knocked off? When you look at the All-22, was that something he should have seen come in? Linemen screwed it up. I mean, what do you just that play in particular and the rest of the evaluation of Fields from this past weekend so far?
Well, let's look at it overall, because I think of the first weekend, and I thought he played well the first weekend. And what really struck me was he looked very poised. He looked very comfortable. I thought this weekend he played a little faster. You know, it's always easy when you're watching a quarterback if there's people around him to say that the offensive line is bad. And granted, the Bears do not have a great offensive line, and he's playing with backups for the most part. But I think that one of the things you have to learn in this league as a quarterback, even if you have really good legs and can make plays with your legs, is you have to get an innate feel what pressure is and what pressure isn't. Just because there are people around you in the NFL does not mean that there's pressure. And when you're very athletic, and Fields is a big kid, he's a big athlete with outstanding movement ability, and so I'm sure the hope is that he can utilize his ability to move as he grows into the position. And that you never know if that's totally going to happen or not. But in this league, you have to be able to finish your progressions as a quarterback. And pressure is a very relative term. And a lot of people see bodies around a quarterback, Rich, and they just automatically assume that's pressure. That's not necessarily the case.
So how would you evaluate him with a date with the Rams coming up in less than 3 Sundays from now, Greg Cosell?
Well, first of all, we don't, based on what's been said, it doesn't appear he'll be the starting quarterback, but we don't know the answer to that. But he's a very talented kid in terms of his ability to move, in terms of his ability to throw. Then what has to happen is he has to better develop the details, the nuances of the position, so that he can play from the pocket with some kind of consistency and execute the game plan and the play calls. And by the way, everything I'm telling you, Rich, is totally expected. If you would talk to any coach, I'm talking about a coach in the league, they would tell you this. All quarterbacks take time to develop. And what they're trying to do through these preseason games is to give quarterbacks an opportunity to be successful with play calls. Like he hit the touchdown 2 weeks ago, and then he hit the big play this week. Both of those were schemed vertical routes. They were specific play calls that they pretty much knew would present a one-read throw down the field. And you're trying to get your quarterback to be successful with those kinds of things so he can feel comfortable playing from the pocket.
Greg Cosell here on the Rich Eisen Show. What have you seen from out of Trey Lance so far?
Yeah, Trey Lance has been a really interesting guy to watch. He's another guy that's got a lot of physical tools. He's very, very talented. His first game, he was all over the place. He was a little frenetic. He threw the ball too hard. He still is having a tendency at times to throw the ball with a little too much velocity when a little pace and touch is required. I thought, it's funny, last night I thought, and I watched the tape this morning, I thought Kyle Shanahan understood after his first two possessions last night that he was just a little chaotic because the sack that ended his second series was on him. He had Sherfield wide open on the crosser but didn't turn it loose. And that was a perfect example of what pressure is and what pressure isn't. People probably saw a body around him to his front side and thought that's pressure. He needed to make that throw. That throw had to be made. So Shanahan started the third possession looking to get him comfortable. An outside screen, a slant flat concept, basic concepts that are real easy to execute. And then he sort of settled into the game a little bit. I thought his best play was the second touchdown he threw, the 16-yarder to Travis Benjamin. That was really good execution. He read the man coverage before the snap of the ball, and he knew that the middle linebacker sitting right in the middle of the field was the player that he had to control to make sure he had the clean passing lane to Benjamin, and he did a really good job with his head controlling the middle linebacker and making the right throw.
Well, and Jimmy G's time out there in SoFi on Sunday night was, one series. It lasted damn near 8 minutes, 7.5 minutes long. So that's why, Lance got in there as opposed to Garoppolo getting back out there.
Sure.
Also ended with an interception. We all know who Jimmy G is and what he can do and what he has done. What do you think? What's your best guess on what Shanahan's evaluation of this process is going to be over the next 3 weeks with one more preseason game to come, knowing, as you've already pointed out, with what coaches think in this league? What's your best guess, Greg Cosell, on how this particular quarterback scenario is going to get evaluated in San Francisco?
Yeah, I think the concern with Jimmy G, and I watched him again this summer from last year in the games in which he did play, is there's just the ball placement with Jimmy G is not as precise as you would like it to be within that offense, because that is a very precise offense that we know Jimmy G can execute. He's done so. The question with Lance, again, is not the physical traits, but it becomes the execution of the specific plays. And his ball placement is not as precise as it needs to be either. Whenever a ball hits a receiver's hand, everybody says, oh, he should catch it. And that's always easy to say. But when you're clean in the pocket and a receiver's open in this league, you have to put it right on his hands. That's NFL quarterbacking. When in that situation, Rich, you don't want to ask your receiver to make a great catch. If you're clean in the pocket and the receiver's open, the ball's got to be put on his hands. And Lance has to get better at that as well. He double clutched a few times. He did that in his first game as well. And there would be some concerns, I guarantee, with him for Kyle Shanahan right now as well. I guess it comes down to whether he thinks he can do more things with Lance because of the running element, the designed running element.
Greg Cosell, NFL Film senior producer here on the Rich Eisen Show. I got to tell you, man, Zach Wilson looked good. He looked comfortable. He looked like he knew where to go with it. He looked decisive. He looks like he can really throw on the run. Like the Jets should move him around as much as they possibly can. What are you seeing?
Yeah, it's the Shanahan offense. There'll be a ton of play action boot, but again, it's interesting. Just what I'm saying when you're trying to give the quarterback comfortable reads, because he threw a 24-yard ball to Davis this week on a dig route, an in-breaker, and it was this very similar three-man route concept to the wide side of the field that they threw the week before. So the read was basically the same, and so therefore he could hit that back foot, he could take that little hitch, and he could deliver the football. And he felt very comfortable because it was the same play, basically, that they ran the week before. So, but you're right, he looks comfortable. He's got a loose live arm. They'll get him on the move. He's very comfortable on the move. He has light feet. So he's he's looked pretty good. You know, the one thing we knew about Wilson, again, this is traits. We know he can make second reaction throws. We know he can move, and we know he can throw the ball well on the move. He has very controlled movement with excellent downfield vision. So when you see him do that, that's not an oh my God, look, he did that. We know that he can do that. But I think with what they've given him up to this point within the structure of the offense, he's looked very efficient and very comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, we know he's going to be put out there week one. I mean, he's going out there.
There's no question there. He's the week one starter.
No question. And we know that Trevor Lawrence, we're having fun with it here on the show. He hasn't been named the starter yet, but doesn't matter what happens tonight in New Orleans. This kid's going to get the start there. And what do you have on Mac Jones? What you're seeing, and he's going to have time with the ones now because Cam is going to be out until Thursday. What do you have for me on that front?
Yeah,
Greg?
And I think, Mac Jones, again, there's not a lot of mystery to his game. The game against the Eagles was a pitch-and-catch game. The Eagles literally on every snap played soft zone coverage. They played zone shells. It was not difficult to read. So Jones, it was a pitch-and-catch game. I mean, the throws were defined. It did not demand any really higher-level decision-making. There were a couple of plays, though, he did show that he could climb the pocket versus outside pressure. That's a trait he will need to master to be a high-level NFL quarterback. I think he can do that. There is a natural sense of timing and rhythm to Mac Jones' game, and I think he consistently throws with precise ball placement. So there's a lot to like about Mac Jones. The Eagles' game was a good performance. It allowed him to be decisive, and a quarterback like that who's a pocket player with a good feel for the timing and rhythm in the pass game, those quarterbacks, you need them to be decisive, and he was very decisive. But that was not a really good game in which to truly get a feel for what he could do in a real NFL game.
Well, I don't know how we're going to get that, right? I mean, like,
you're going to get that when the season starts if he plays.
Yes, we will. So your best guess. Because again, I know you go off the all 22, and then there's things that we're not talking about with all 22. What goes on in a locker room? Or Albert Breer, my colleague with the MMQB, said last week that Dalton gets a play from Matt Nagy, and the play has terminology for everyone in the huddle, and Dalton knows exactly what the terminology is for and for whom, and directs directly to that position group in the huddle, while it's just blurted out by Justin Fields because he's trying to memorize things.
Of course.
So these are all things that go into everything. But based on what you're seeing on the all 22, is there somebody that's ready that you look at? Okay, the kid's ready. Is there somebody that like you have that sensibility, even for the ones that we know are going to get the start just because the circumstances have forced it? Is there anybody you're looking at? Go, okay, that kid's ready. Anybody?
I mean, I think we know that Zach Wilson's going to start, and I think within the context of this offense, and it's funny you say that because when I did my evaluation of Zach Wilson, I made a note that I thought he would fit very effectively in a Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay offense, and now he's in a Kyle Shanahan offense with Michael LaFleur being the offensive coordinator with the Jets. So I think Zach Wilson is probably going to be ready to play. The other guys, you hit on a great point that Albert said, and that's so true, and people don't think about that. For these young quarterbacks, they're just trying to get the play call in the huddle, get to the line of scrimmage, have enough time, make sure everybody's in the right place. The defense is probably the last thing they're looking at right now. And then when they get into a regular season game, you know what? The defense will be a little bit of a problem at times. So that's why this is so hard, but, it's fun to talk about, but it's very hard to answer that without being there and seeing all that on a daily basis.
Before I let you go, Greg Cosell, anybody else flash? Has anybody flashed on your tape? Or you go, okay.
Well, I've been watching a lot of quarterbacks, because that's, I'm in the process now of watching Davis Mills. I didn't watch him this week, but I watched Jacob Eason from the week before, and I actually thought Jacob Eason from the week before, the first preseason game, I actually thought he looked the best of all the quarterbacks. And again, this week I know he played, and he threw a lot of balls. I haven't gotten a chance to take a peek at it yet, but I saw Wentz was actually back at practice today, kind of bouncing around, so I'm sure if he's ready, he'll go week one.
How about any of the receivers? I know Devontae Smith got out there. Waddle, got knocked out of a game for a little bit. Jamar Chase has had the dropsies, is what everybody's been pointing out. But anybody flash on that front? just on
Well,
on the
I'll
tape?
tell you a guy I'm really anxious to see this year because I loved him coming out of college, and he had a case of the dropsies last year, which he did not have in college, is Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy had a big fourth down play this week, and with Bridgewater at quarterback. And I'm real anxious to see Jerry Jeudy in his second season because I loved his route running. I loved his tape at Alabama, and he had a solid season last year, but he had far too many drops, which he did not really show in college. So he's someone I'm really curious to see.
Well, I think the year two that a lot of people are mentioning right now in the receiver front is CeeDee Lamb, number one.
Oh, yeah.
And also Ayuk in San Francisco.
Yes,
Seeing how
CeeDee
those
Lamb
kids look.
I think they're going to move people around in Dallas. I mean, last year he played predominantly in the slot. I think that now they'll start moving people around, and he'll play on the outside. He'll play in the slot. Lamb is a talented guy. It's interesting. Lamb, it's funny how some guys look big and other guys look small, even if they're the same height. And Lamb is one of those guys that looks bigger on tape to me.
Yeah, well, it depends on if DiNucci can get him the ball, right, Greg?
Well, I'm very much hoping it's Dak because Dak was really, really good last year.
Me too. I'm just staring down my cowboy honk here in the on the set and just trying to give him some grief through you, Greg. So I appreciate you calling into the program as always. Let's chat down the line as always. Appreciate it.
All right, Rich, really appreciate it. Thanks.
You got it. Senior producer at NFL Films, Greg Cosell, right here on the Rich Eisen Show. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.